Welcome, everyone, to the Forge and Brains podcast. I'm Gavin Cooper, your host, along with my co-host, Riley Kirkpatrick, and we are here at Riley Kirkpatrick's shop, and we just got done with a team practice involving Team PNW, which consists of Riley Kirkpatrick, Troy Wood, Brian Strelow, and Jesse Wilson. So they just got done with a 2-day team practice where they shod a draft horse building handmade plain stamps with a Masselot Toe Clip. I also did a whole video on it, so you can go check that out at my YouTube channel, Pacific Northwest Farrier Show, and if you want to see more details on that. So, here's Riley.
Yeah, so we figured we kind of, the team aspect of being a horseshoer is pretty weird just in general because we are individuals as horseshoers. We run businesses mostly by ourselves. We're our own bosses. Everything kind of relies just on our one thing. So you're shoeing the whole entire horse by yourself every day. The horse is pretty general and you have your own ideas. So you don't have something else being like, well, that's different than what you're doing. And the difference is very obvious. So the team aspect is super interesting because you get 4 minds from from us, we're all from the Northwest, but we have different practices. Each one of us, me, Jesse, and Brian are on the west side of the states, so we're a little bit wetter climate. Troy's from the east side of the states, and so he's in a little bit drier climate. And so it's really interesting that we all get to gather up and gather our experience, what we see every day, our idea of what a foot should look like. Even though we all try to trim and shoe to the basics, the mind sees its own tiny thing, and so we all get to kind of gather up and try to make each other better in that way, and so it's a really interesting thing, but it's also a hard thing that you have to deal with this other person's opinion.
There could be struggles.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the hardest things I think about it is that, like, you have to learn to accept it. You have to learn to take we talked about ego before that comes into the competition, and it's really not that big in the competition real too bad.
Who do you think has the biggest ego on your guys' team?
Oh, I think, like I'm probably guilty of it, you know what I mean? And not even ego, but it's like I definitely feel the pressure of, like, I have a big social media presence somewhat as a horseshoer, so I don't want to fail. And it's like I put myself out there a lot.
But so nobody wants to fail, right?
Nobody wants to fail, but it's like, and I don't think it's an ego, but I probably have, like, I don't know if I have the firmest line, but I have a pretty firm line of where I'm at, and it's like it's easy. The other guys seem more easy to adjust sometimes, where I do feel like I'm just like, well, this is just kind of what I'm doing. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know if I per se, like, that would have to be to them to answer, but like, from my standpoint, they don't have ego. Troy is young, but Troy is super talented and he sees a lot.
Yeah, he's got a lot going on for himself.
Yeah, and so right now Troy's got a lot, and I wouldn't call it ego, but Troy needs to have some confidence in himself, right? And that's just a young guy thing. And I think it's like, man, most of us ridden horses and been around dogs and stuff like that. You kill a young dog or young horse's confidence.
Yeah.
He's not going to have confidence later. So you kind of want to keep the confidence in Troy and see where he's going. And sometimes, man, like, not even sometimes, Troy does good.
Yeah, there's a big dynamic when it comes to being on a team with 4 people, right?
Huge.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Jesse, what do you think's like the hardest thing about being on a team with 4 guys?
Telling somebody that they didn't do something right.
Yeah. What do you think it's hard to, like, perceive that information when somebody else is coming at you as well?
No, I think it's harder for the person that has to break the news to them, because we're all friends. We all want everybody to do good. Like, it's hard to have to tell one of your friends, hey, man, that ain't very good.
Yeah.
And it's hard, too, because, like, we're all different personalities, each one of us on this team. That's the part that makes it great, and that's the part that makes it hard to communicate. So, like, as a person, you're like, well, this is how I'd say it to myself, and this is how I'm saying it in my brain.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden you spit it at them, and they're like, wow, that wasn't very nice. Like, you, like, see it on their face instantly.
Yeah. I mean, personality's coming into that, right? Like, having to be able to communicate with that person's personality so you don't necessarily kill their confidence or something, right?
Yeah, and Jesse's really good about communicating and coming up with a new way to do it.
Yeah.
A new way to communicate it to you. But like, I think he's right. It's like, that's the hard part, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is how like, so instantly, like when you see your buddy, here he is, he's making it go, and you're like, well, that's not gonna work out. What is your chain of events in your head of how you're gonna communicate that?
Like waiting for the right time to break the news to them, and at a point where they can understand and process what you're about to say, and saying it in a manner that they can relate to what they're doing.
It's hard though too, because like we're doing a thing that like they're trimming foot that you can't get back, and they're moving metal you can't get back at that point. So
because there's the pressure of the clock.
So what if you never get to like, what if the time never comes?
If it's getting dangerous, like you stop them right now, hey, we need to talk about this. But in most cases, you see it coming, you know what's going to like, you're not head the right direction with that. Wait for the proper time when they are not in like on the muscle, in full go mode, just a second when they can listen. Because as soon as the clock starts, your brain's just gone.
It's the whole battle.
Yeah.
You're almost kind of kicking into muscle memory at that point,
That's all it is. You talk to somebody who's working off of muscle memory, and their brain's not working anymore. You wait for a second.
The clock sometimes, I'm guilty of it as well. Like when the clock goes, like everything else that happens out, in the world is kind of done. You're just basically, you have one thing on your mind.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to stop that train, right?
Oh, it's truly the hardest. And so like today we had that happen a little bit. We have a draft horse come in. It's one of my clients. So like it's hard to get draft horses for practice and stuff. And like she came in and like,
which is pretty sweet that you have a client that will haul a draft horse to your shop. So
not
you guys
even
can
to
all
mention.
practice.
So this weekend was just a spur of events of like, so we're all busy guys. We got our schedules planned out in advance because we shoot horses 6 weeks in advance. And so we schedule out these team practices. This isn't like, we aren't sponsored horseshoers. We are like, we do. We have some sponsors right now.
Who are you guys' sponsors?
So we got Olympia Farrier Supply. We got Valley Farrier Supply. Olympia is obviously in Olympia, Washington, correct? Valley Farrier Supply is in Malala, Oregon.
Okay. Yep.
And then we have
the
South Sound Equine is Dr. Mike Clark.
Yep, we got Dr. Mike Clark helping us out.
and then the Farriers Association of Washington State.
Yeah, we got FAWS, which is just state farrier associations are huge for a community, and FAWS has a great community going on.
I didn't know that they were you guys' sponsor. Like that's pretty sweet.
It's huge.
Have that as a backup.
And we are all from the Pacific Northwest. I'm pretty happy to
that
get
explains
asked
the team name.
The Oregon
Team
guy,
PNW.
like they're all from Washington. And so that's pretty big. But like we're generally not sponsored, so we're flipping our own bill. We got to work, We can't just be dicking around all the time, going to practices.
It's not like you're an NFL athlete.
No, we all got lives, man. It's like he's got kids, he's trying to just do crazy kid stuff, and I got a kid and I'm trying to hunt. So it's pretty hard. It's like, so we schedule this weekend. There's not a lot of flexibility. You get the horse scheduled because they got to still be done on time and keep good hoof quality. And so we scheduled this weekend, and like we are in Oregon, and this is like the Northwest. This is fire season at the max. It is the beginning of September and the end of August.
Yeah, it didn't help. The power company sends you an email like, "Hey, we're shutting your power off." And we were already all planning on coming here, so we've been working with no power.
Before everybody even arrived, we lost power.
Yeah.
We got cut out. The whole entire little valley I live in has just been socked full of smoke. So thankfully, I got a good client that she brought in a horse,
and thankfully Jesse brought the generator, so you're able to use the coke fire.
We powered through, man. We were just like, that's one thing. Like horseshoers are problem solvers.
Yeah,
and we problem solved throughout the weekend.
Improvise, adapt, and overcome.
Yeah, but it's like, so like not like this is the thing. So there, people listening to this might think like, man, you guys are calling each other out. That's what we do on a team. That's what you kind of come together for. You got to kind of call each other out. And we like today, Brian got information overloaded on his foot. And he just overthought, and so it just didn't come out the way he wanted it to because he was a little bit on a journey. You know what I mean? So it is super hard to communicate. Like, it was on most of us that we just kept communicating at them, and it's like that's what practices are for.
How do you take that information, Brian? Like when you guys get done or during your go, and
I bet during the go is probably even more important, like of how he's accepting it then.
yeah,
Yeah. So for me personally, just trying to understand the information they're trying to give me to improve what I'm doing.
yeah,
So when everything's going, they say black and my brain says white, or they say this or that. And so just trying to do the moves that I need to do to improve the work that is in front of me.
yeah,
But the biggest part is that, like, that particular go, like, I let everybody on my team down. And so I feel that responsibility to them. And then, of course, emotionally, it makes me upset. And when I get upset, I get mad at myself. And so then...
Because that is one thing. You're really... I never felt like you were mad at me
Oh, absolutely not.
during a situation, but it's like...
When you guys started... all I'm trying to do is damage control. How can I take the information you guys are giving me, repair what I did...
Dude, yeah.
To keep going.
Damage control is such a...
It was all damage control.
That makes so much sense of that. You're just like... But at the same time, like Jesse already said, like he's just saying it when it's a good time. He never got to an urgent time, really. Like you never really got to an urgent time, so it's never like the damage control. I think like that's a good way of thinking of like that. You got to damage control too fast, probably. And then once you get to damage control, you end up chasing a little bit. Everybody does that. You're like,
yeah, well, you go down the rabbit hole.
Oh, deep.
So like on the go we had today, my rabbit hole. I had 2 rabbit holes on the feet. I had one trying to get the bar sculpting. There's the back half of the foot and a big, like a strut that holds the hoof capsule together. And I had everybody was coming there trying to help me, and I couldn't. I tried one thing and then also do this, and so.
It also didn't help. I noticed your foot was like the hardest and driest to trim out of.
So yes. So
four.
just the technicality of trying to make my tools do what I wanted to do. It was difficult, but
feel like Ricky Bobby, and you're like, I don't know what to do with my hands.
and I intentionally, the horse had some dorsal wall flare or thickness, and my own personal journey. With shoeing everyday horses, I've been really aggressive in bringing that back. And what I learned today, and that I'm going to take back to this week, is evaluating some of my horses and trying to figure out am I going way over the edge and trying to be doing too much? Because the feedback I got today was I did too much, and in 6 weeks when that horse is due again, we're going to see some problems that wouldn't have happened if I left more material in certain places.
Yeah.
So, I don't disagree with any of the things that my teammates have pointed out to me.
That's what I was just about to ask.
But at this point, until I can see some of my work, like on Monday when I'm underneath horses, I can't refute what they're saying, because right now all I see is all the negatives that happen, and so I need to go look at my horse and see, well, do I see the negatives in these feet here that are due that these guys say that I created?
Yeah.
And then from there, I can learn.
And it's so fine too. It's like the layman wouldn't notice these things that we are pointing out.
Yeah, I guess it's not like totally detrimental. It's just like
no, we were making it sound like it's way bigger deal because like
cripple it. Yeah,
it's almost a lot when you invite a client to a team practice.
Yeah,
like it has to be the right client that can handle hearing all these horrible things about the shoe job that was just done on their horse.
They're sitting there like, oh my gosh, you're doing all that wrong and like this wrong. But it's just like minute little details.
It's still some of the top work in the nation.
That's it.
Competing against some of
the best of the best.
And neither one of us, like not trying to toot anybody's horn, aren't the worst farriers in their area. There's a reason like that we chose to be on, like this was a chosen team. This wasn't just like, well, this has only got 4 guys that wanted to do it. And like, we chose the guys that we thought had a skill set. So it's not like it. No, it's just, it's such good shoeing. And the point systems are so close even at that competition. And it's something that, like when Brian's talking about the bars, of sculpting these bars, competition shoeing is a cartoon drawing of a horse's foot. Everything is exaggerated so much. You exaggerate how smooth and nice the knife work is, how sculpted the bars are. We're taking these shoes to a high grit of sandpaper before we re-blue them and brush them. Like everything is so fine. So it's like when we're saying these things, and like we might consider them detrimental because we're paying attention to the details.
Yeah, it's at a microscopic level that our attention to detail.
Yeah.
Where, Bob Marshall always talked about trying to aim for the bullseye, and even if you're in the second ring outside the bullseye, that's 80%. You're still doing a real benefit to the horse.
Yeah.
And we're talking about, can we hit the bullseye, and then can we split that arrow, and then can we split that arrow? Can we split that arrow?
Yeah.
Yep.
And so, all of our goes today, there are parts of them where we're pretty close to the bullseye, and there are parts where we're just outside that bullseye. And this go, was my go to be outside the bullseye.
Yeah.
So now when you leave here and you're headed home and you go to work on Monday, you're not mad at your friends or your teammates here you're just kind of taking it inside. Like you need to.
Like I said, the biggest thing for me is I'm mad at myself for letting my teammates down, and then I need to evaluate, looking at what I've done on my own horses, and see, do I see what they're saying?
Yeah.
Can I understand what they're saying, and do I see the points that they were making on my own horses? And if it is, now I can take the information they gave me and I can make them better. And then if I don't see it, perhaps I need to be told again or re-educated as to what they were trying to say, so we all come to the same consensus on it. So maybe I show up and the last point of weight bearing is where Jesse said it is, and maybe it isn't. So if it is where he says he thinks it is on my horses, then I need to change something. And if it's not, then maybe he and I need to talk again about what the physics are happening on that capsule.
And that's kind of the cool thing about the team a little bit, is that it's not fully, I don't think, of like this way or that way. It's like about kind of meeting in the middle, because there's a lot of people that have said it's like, if you want a horse in your care to do really well, have somebody else do them every 6 weeks. And so, and at the end of that, you got all these different ideas, and like the horse is probably somewhere in the middle doing pretty dang good.
Yeah.
Like, if we start influencing them a little bit too much one way or the other. And so like, it's super, like, I love the team aspect of just like how we all learn different. And so like I'm not good about leaving here and putting a lot of thought into this stuff. I'm not going to lie. Like I end up just like, boop, all right, next to the next thing. Like my ADHD is I'm rolling all over the place, where Brian's super methodical. And so he's going to think hard about this for the next week. It's like, it's going to be on you.
I'm pretty sure Jesse and I aren't going to talk all the way home.
Yeah. And if it was, it'd be like,
one of us might talk a lot.
be talking at him. But it's like, that's kind of the fun. Like the very first practice we had, me and Jesse both shoe the hind feet. The very first practice we had, quite a big difference in between what both of our, not a huge difference, but we each had our own idea. Right now, when we get done, especially our trims, might be kind of hard to tell. Like our trims are looking like the same guy.
Between you and Jesse?
Yes.
Yeah, I've noticed that when I go pick up
We
the
have
feet.
melded up with our trims, and that's about meeting in the middle.
But I've also noticed that between Troy and Brian, like your guys' trims, your feet tend to look the same as well. So that's fairly good if you're trying to, be on a team, right?
And not even just be on a team. It's probably good for the horse.
Yeah.
That this horse is not being pushed one way completely. This horse is getting a debate done about it of where it needs to be heading.
Yeah.
And so you get both these people's ideas, and so like, somewhere in the middle is probably the right idea, or somewhere where that horse could be the most comfortable.
Yeah.
So I like that I think that is a really good aspect of this whole entire team event, is you get the influence, from each entire person. And it's like, so the world's a little bit backwards of how we kind of learn most times. It seems like, especially for me, it's like I'm a better student of life now than I was when I was in school. And so I do think that like me, Jesse, and Brian are probably learning a little bit easier and like receptive, where Troy's pretty moldable.
Yeah, Troy, how long have you been shoeing horses for?
Just about 3 years, so I'm still kind of a newbie, but...
And this is your first time ever being on like a 4-man team or
Yep.
anything like that?
Yep, it's my first team. I've tried to surround myself with handy guys from day one,
That's smart.
so
That's smart.
yeah.
How old are you anyways? Like
19.
Dang.
so pretty young, pretty young in life, no matter what, whether it be 3 years or 10 years of shoeing horses, you know, there's guys that come into horseshoeing at 40. Those guys might be better. And I'm not trying, obviously Troy is an amazing student of the trade, but like during like, man, when you're a young guy, you got some ideas and you're going to just do it, you know, no matter what
Opinionated,
happens.
Yeah.
What do you think is the coolest thing about being on this team, Troy?
Other people's perspective
Yeah.
of... I try to like... I'm kind of opinionated, so I see like what I want to make a foot or how I want to make a shoe. But when somebody else comes in and tells me what they see wrong, it's like a light bulb to where I didn't even see it before. But then when somebody else brings their point of view into it, then it's pretty beneficial. 'Cause
Yeah.
the goal of like a 4-man team is you want it to look like the same person shod the horse.
Uh-huh.
So we want to take the good parts of all of our style and leave out the bad, ideally,
Yep.
and then have a good go.
So do you think if you guys stopped competing as a 4-man team or whatever, do you think you would see yourself, you know, trying to sort out, like find another team?
For
like,
sure.
down the road?
It's super beneficial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are your goals?
I'd like to make the WCB team,
Yeah.
so that'd be pretty cool.
Are you like in the hunt for the WCB, like the apprentice team this year?
I'm in the hunt for the Cat 4 team right now. I'm in the 4th spot.
For the
so,
Cat 4 team, the
Yep.
overall team.
Yep, sitting
God
6th.
dang.
I know.
And you only been shoeing horses 3 years. That's freaking incredible.
Skipped right past us with the Cat 2 team. Deal.
Yeah, no kidding. God dang.
Just like, well, I guess I'll just go right for the team. So the WCB, how it works, the WCB is called the World Championship, the World,
Championship Blacksmith.
that's what it's called.
Yep.
Exactly. It's run by the Trunka family, and Craig is just such a seasoned competitor himself. They are a family of competitive people, and they are a family of this trade. They understand it inside and out. And so Craig has started this competition series that he drives around the country, and it's usually 4 to 5 competitions in the year. That's what it was for quite a while, and they were individual competitions pretty much. And he has a semi-trailer, like a 53-foot tractor, or like tractor trailer, and the sides come up like a DeLorean, and they got Coke forges going down the sides. So all you got to bring is just a little Pelican case and come and compete with them. And so you compete throughout the year, and at the end of the year, you can earn a spot like for year-end totals and stuff like that. And a part of those year-end totals is they have a team, and they have different categories you compete in. Even though everybody kind of makes the same horseshoes, you get split up within there. So you could win your own little subcategory, so there's category 1, category 2, category 3, category 4. You could win those individually, or you could be a guy like Troy, and like as a Cat 1, you could win and be on the team that is consisted pretty much of Cat 4. You could beat those Cat 4 guys if you have good enough goes. And so it's like possibilities there, but there's still the sub encouragement, the little encouragement along the way. And so what Troy's talking about, he's in the running for the WCB team. So Troy has overstepped of there's a category 2 team, which they call an apprentice team, and you get to go compete abroad and learn about competing abroad and competing in England and getting ready for a competition like that. And me and Gavin were both lucky enough to go and do that. So we got to go to England.
Yeah, that was fun.
WCB sent us over there and got to do it. But Troy's pushed really hard, and he's just super. I'm not trying to say but Troy is naturally talented. He can see things very well, and he's pushed on those traits, so that's good. He didn't let him lie, just rest on his laurels. And so to be rewarded, he's run in the running for the Cat 4 team, and he could get to go and, talk about, is it nervous, the thought of being on a team with that caliber of guys? Like, I'm not trying to say it's like, we aren't that caliber of guys. As much as I would love to be, we're not. So, like, the thought of being with those guys, and, like, it's serious at that point. It's not as much as just a fun educational deal.
I wouldn't say I'm really nervous. If I make it, I'd be more enthusiastic because all the possibilities of learning.
It's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, that's a good way to try to accept it, too, of, like, rise up to the challenge.
Yeah,
You're ready to come
sure.
up to it.
Yeah, it's a big opportunity, really.
Yeah.
You know, if you make that team and you get to be on it, like, that's a huge opportunity for you to become better, you know, overall, and like that'll help set you up for the years to come.
Yeah.
You know, usually those guys the first year or whatever, like they seem to make it repeatingly in following years, so that would be pretty dang sweet.
Would be. Yeah. There's still a contest in December, so
There's only
see how
one
I
left.
do there. In the individuals, yeah. There's only one more individual contest.
Yeah, so
God
it's
dang.
just Fort Worth left.
Damn. That's
So
cool.
it's like, and now the WCB is done a little bit different. They have the individual contest still, but now they have the team contest. They have 3 team contests throughout the year.
Those are the 4-man teams,
Those
right?
are the 4-man teams. So that's what
Which is
that's
what
what
you
our
guys
team's
are.
for. Our team's just for going to the WCB team contest.
Yep.
That is, there's no year end goal for the team series. They're just their own thing. But I loved the individual, but I might like these more.
I think you grow more as a horseshoer in the team aspect because each event that we're doing on a 3-day contest schedule is on the horse. Where at the individuals is 2 days of blacksmithing, and then if you're top 40, you shoe 1 foot.
Yeah.
And so we're shoeing each of us 3 feet over 3 days.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which just translates exactly into everyday shoeing.
Yep.
And so,
With the perspective of 3 other.
absolutely.
Everyday farriers.
Absolutely.
So the 3-day contest, there's 3 different shoeing categories, right?
Correct.
They are the draft shoeing.
Yeah, so right now for the ones that we're doing this year,
Yeah, because there's a couple different kind of draft shoeings, right?
right? Yeah, so the one we're doing is we've got one day where we've got a draft. It's a draft shoeing. We've got it's a Masselot Toe Clip. It's a plain stamp shoe. We have a tool and folder day. This tool and folder shoe is a 100 fit on the front feet and on the hind feet with a toe clip on the fronts. And on the hind feet, it's quarter clipped with a medial hunter heel and then a lateral pleasure heel.
Yep.
And then the last one for this contest coming up is 3/4 folder day. So it's 3/4 foldered, Masselot toe clip, just like the draft shoeing, but that's on a smaller horse.
More of like a pleasure fit, right? Or
Yeah, it like
Just every
it'd be
day.
like shoeing a dressage horse or maybe a trail horse, kind of shoeing.
Which day is your favorite out of the 3 of them?
Personally,
Yeah.
personally, it's a 3/4 folder day because it's the least technical.
Yeah.
It's the closest thing that we see to
Suppose it's probably the most we've done as well, right?
most we've done it, and it's the closest thing from my practice to what I do every day.
Yeah.
Relatable,
Yeah. So
What about you, Jesse? What's your favorite day?
The tool and folder is my favorite day because it's the furthest away from everything that we do.
Yeah.
It's really
And that's a tough class to do.
it's tough. It is really tough to make the shoe mimic the foot.
Yeah.
You don't
Mimic
have-
the
there's no-
foot, or just like the other classes are pretty easy to make a nailable shoe.
Yeah.
That class is like, man, don't drop the ball ever.
You can really fuck it up.
I mean, and it's not, and it's kind of like that's where even team comes in big, where it's like your striker could fuck your shoe up like in a fucking hurry, dude. It's like,
that's a test. You fit the foot. How good of a farrier are you?
and it's not even just this. We get split up pretty harsh now of like between blacksmiths and farriers. That's what I love about the WCB's name is we're called blacksmiths because the tool and folder class is so blacksmithing. And like I doubt there's many blacksmiths out there that just do blacksmithing that could run tooling good enough to make a tool and foldered shoe.
Yeah.
It is so tool aware the whole entire time of what it's doing. Every little
it's
single
so
hit.
precise. You're essentially doing machining work, but without a machine.
And so it's crazy. That's like, man, I'm so stressed out during tool and folder day. Like,
Oh, yeah, it's agonizing.
You love it.
Yeah, it's agonizing.
You love the burn. Like
It's a real test. Yeah.
So you rode rough stock and stuff as a kid too, right?
Yeah.
You like that on the line.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, you show up or not.
Don't. It's so nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
It's agonizing.
It's nerve-wracking. It's like, I don't think I'm like horrible at running tooling, but the whole entire time I'm just like, this could be it. Yeah. This could be it where it all goes south right now.
Yeah, this could end it all.
That is great though, that you're just like, that is a trait to be like admired, is be like loving the stress.
Yeah, with the other two shoes that we build, it's like, yeah, I can box that in. With the tool and fuller, it's like,
There's no hiding anything.
No.
You got it or you don't.
Yeah.
That is so true. So true.
Do it right. And that's
It's
it.
so exacting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. I'm probably the weakest at a tool and folder day, and at our last contest in Pennsylvania, it wasn't until that I pritchled my nail holes that I could even breathe.
But it is.
See
but that's the
if my
hard
shoe
part.
is nailable.
That's the hard
Really?
part. Nailable.
Yeah.
Just nail. So like when you're building a horseshoe, the general rule of horseshoeing is nails down the center, depending on what type of horses you're shoeing. So like tool and fuller day and 3/4 fuller day, pleasure type horses, nails down the center. Draft horses are big horses. They got thick walls. You might want to touch them in just a touch inside and center for me. But it's like, so making the tool and fuller shoes nailable is so hard. It's like,
Yeah, there's no room for error on the
and
tool
it's
and folder
not
shoe.
like there's just a little bit of work in them to get them to the nail holes punching out. You have, like, you and the striker have busted your butt of taking something from 5/8 square and running it through a block, and they grow like quite a bit. So like we're getting like 3 inches of growth just in the straight of taking this square section and running it into a triangle.
Yeah, it is the most cardio that any farrier or blacksmith will ever endure, is running just 2 sections or horseshoes through a block.
So swinging a 10-pound
Swinging a
sledgehammer.
And then to
as
top it off
hard
with
and
hot
as-
rasping at the end.
As hard and as fast as you can, but also as accurate as you can.
Yep.
Because a missed blow can create something that the guy who's making the shoe is going to have to deal with for the entirety of that
Never
whole
coming out.
shoeing process. Yeah, it is.
So, but is it for you-
It's just as nerve-wracking for me trying to make a shoe that I'm going to end up with a nail hole that I can use, as it is for me swinging the sledgehammer to make sure I don't mess up one of my teammates' projects.
Is it for you though? Does it go from the most stressful class to maybe the easier class after the nail holes are done?
For me, if the test for me is to fit a foot exact, but personally, I've done enough of that in my everyday early on in my shoeing career that I don't have a huge issue.
That's
with that
what I've noticed.
because I started out shoeing some Dude Ranch horses, and then my apprenticeship was at the Thoroughbred Racetrack, and we were essentially doing hunter shoeing.
Penny on a penny, what they call it.
There was no boxing, there was no expansion. There's nothing outside the hoof capsule.
No, so I think like that's maybe where it changes from your, like, subconsciously your least favorite class to maybe one of your favorite classes in the fitting. Because I see like you fit up faster in the tool and fuller class.
But there's no garbage.
That's like Jesse's saying. There's no room
And here's
for
the deal.
discretion.
And here's the
Like-
deal. Like, we showed up to Pennsylvania contest, and pretty much the feedback we got is that we were all shod short,
Tight.
except for the tool and folder day. And so we're like, well, so we're having to then, well, we need to fit bigger and around to make it so the judges, it's more appealing to the judges.
Yeah.
And where some of us live, like we have wet climates, and if I'm hanging out over half an inch of steel, I got to come back next week, put a shoe back on.
Yep.
So, it's just a weird deal. So I think this aspect of the teams, like for me personally, is I'm just trying to figure out what do the judges want? What's my end goal? When it's 100 fit, that, like some people say, it's one of the easier classes to judge as a judge, because you're either exactly on that hoof wall or you're either under or over. And so if you're exactly on it, good on you. You did a great job. But if you're over it, it makes it easy.
Yep.
To say, okay, well, that's a couple point deduction there.
Yep.
And so these draft horses and this pleasure horse type fit, you can put a shoe on there and then kind of run a rasp on it to kind of mimic your fit. But like my draft horse today, I mean, I rasped forever just to try and make it look like it fit the foot. it was I was going down a dark alley by myself today. I'm emotionally distraught.
I was fearing for you.
There's going to be
We hid all the. We took his hoof knives away.
I've already texted my wife. She takes there's no shoelaces.
The weighted blankets on the couch.
All the closet rods have been sawn in half. It's
We're on suicide watch for Brian.
It's like an Epstein lookout here for anything bad to happen.
Oh man.
But it's almost its own punishment that you're like, fit big, have fun in the vice, bud.
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
You all of a sudden are just doing push-ups with their ass over
that
and
was kind
over.
of mind-blowing for us all at the first competition that we attended as a team, because we fit everything and everybody else was like
Out and around.
and boxed in.
And I don't want to say
fit,
they weren't fit and we were fit. We didn't understand the fit, like, we just went into it thinking like, well, we'll just put it how we put them every day.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of what we were doing.
Yeah.
Well, like I said earlier, horseshoeing competitions are cartoons. So you wanted everything a little bit bigger and a little bit perfect, and like filed right to with the angle of the hoof wall a little bit. So it had flow and it's real nice. And so that's like, when we say fit, it's like, well, coming down to horseshoeing fit is like nails in the white line and the heels are being supported and the hoof wall is being supported. Well, they were doing that, but they were also giving them a little bit extra all the way around for the first 2 days.
And clearly intentional with the course punch.
That's the word.
Punched course.
Yep.
And box to fit. 100% intentional. But
has this way of fitting, has it like transpired into the individual WCB contest when it comes to shoeing day?
I think it's just transpired through the whole entire horseshoeing world as a competition in the world in general, is that we're just getting a little bit better. We understand a little bit more. Like, I'm not saying we understand it more, but it's like the skill set's getting better and the time frame's getting better. It's like before times are getting faster and faster and all the time, it seems like, through the competitions. You might not have had enough time to do all the rasping that gets done now.
Yeah.
Well, now there's enough time to do all that rasping and to make a normal shoe look beveled and look very, very, like, mimic the hoof even more.
Yeah.
Because it's like, man, it's like, when I haven't been competing very long. We just, like we're talking about the other day, I've been competing at the WCB for about 7 years. And when I first started, leather chamois and sandboxes didn't exist.
No, I remember
there
that.
was a half round and a bastard file were about as smooth as you were going to get your shoe.
A little sand and sponge.
And a sand and sponge and maybe a work glove.
Yeah.
Like that was in a wire brush. And it's like now all of a sudden shoes and feet, like shoes are getting taken up to about 120 to 240 grit.
Yes, before went through a phase where they were doing like all these grits and like making it like shiny as a mirror, but now they're taking it back to where like they don't want any sanding on.
So it got to the point where like, well, if you got enough time, you can leather chamois.
Yeah.
And make it as nice as you want. So you got these feet that look like bowling balls. They are sweet.
But some of the basic fundamentals have been missing, right?
So then you got guys though that they don't have enough time to get there, but they see it as, and like, this is just my opinion on it, they see this is what it takes to win, is the winners all feet look like bowling balls and went to the leather chamois.
Yeah.
And so they're dropping off on certain spots trying to get to the leather chamois.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and it's also like you were able to hide some things, like something go wrong and you could chamois over it or you could sand over it and it was hidden.
Yeah.
And it was completely like tool innovation. There wasn't a sand, like Justin Fry invented the sandbox and came out with it where we could all just put sandpaper and hit our shoes and feet with them.
Yep.
Well, like now, like, so like it went kind of crazy when the innovation came out, and now I think we're just reining it back a little bit. We're still sandboxing the shoes and everything, but we're like I can't say any words. Yeah, that one. We're not taking as much freaking hoof wall away with all the sanding paper, and we're just leaving a little more there. And you have to be
focusing more on the basics,
more skill set.
Yeah,
you can see when someone screwed up.
Yep.
Yeah, completely.
Well, I suppose if you're walking by 40 different feet, and all 40 of them are shined up like a bowling ball, right? And if one of them isn't, obviously, and it's like kind of still rough finishing, you're going to think automatically like, oh, maybe that one there's not as great.
Subconsciously, it's hard to get away from it.
Yeah. But if you're looking at them all from the top there where they're all shiny, you're not necessarily looking at the bottom yet, so it's almost drawing your eye immediately like, oh, dang, this is really nice. I've only even picked up what counts.
I've only judged a couple contests, but it is like, first impressions really matter.
Yeah.
And so when you're freaking walking up and you look at that foot, you're like, bang, that looks sweet. And then like
Yeah.
you look at the bottom, you're like, that's going to influence how you see the rest of it.
Yep.
It just has to. And so it's like it can help you or hurt you.
Yeah.
The whole entire
all the
thing.
fundamentals have to be there, right?
Yeah, completely. Like every single time. It's still basics of horseshoeing when it comes all the way down to the bottom of it.
Yeah. Well, Troy, what is your favorite out of the 3 days? Which one do you like to do the most?
I would say my favorite is the 3/4 fuller day.
Yeah.
But I practice that the least.
Really?
Yep.
So why is it your favorite then?
Well, it's because it's so applicable for everyday work.
Yep.
Like,
Makes sense.
I do quite a few make and fits, so most of the time I'll make and fit a 3/4 fuller shoe.
So what do you enjoy? What do you enjoy doing the most? Do you enjoy the 4-man individual or the 2-man at the individual WCB contest?
That's a hard question. I would say probably the 4-man.
That's what you like the
Because-
It's not
most.
the individual.
I would say that I score the highest in the individual contest, but I learn the most with a 4-man team.
Yeah.
So
Makes sense. You know, you're getting all this input from your peers. So.
right, for sure.
How much during your individual goes are you thinking about what your teammates have said to you?
Constantly. It's like a voice in my head.
But is that voice clearer during your individual go than it is when we're actually there talking to you?
I would say it's clearer after the fact, but like initially,
When the timer's
Yeah.
off, then you hear it.
yeah.
That's that's you to a T. And it's like, man, it's like Troy's great at it. You'll tell Troy, like, Troy, hey man, hit this, and he's like, I left that there for a purpose. And then after the go, you're like, he's like, dude, I should have took that. I really wish I would have tuned in there. But it's like that's kind of like a good part about it.
Well, we've talked about Troy's favorite shoe and which class is his most favorite. And I'm kind of curious to know, Riley, which one is your most favorite to do out of the 3 disciplines?
Dude, I think it's pretty hard. Like, I'm just all over the place in my life, so it's like I got a part from each one that I like the most.
Yeah.
But
So it's hard to necessarily pinpoint one.
yeah, but probably the draft day is probably my favorite.
Why do you reckon?
So tool and fuller day is just stressful. It's really hard. Like that's not that like, oh, it's really hard, I want to stay away from it, but it's just like it's just still really hard. So it's just not my favorite. It's not my like the most fun class to me because it is stressful the whole entire time.
Yeah.
But the 3/4 fuller day is kind of a plain day per se, so it doesn't have a lot of like pizzazz to it. And
Yeah.
so like I keep on catching myself trying to add something to the foot to make it like give it that cartoony nice over the top look.
Which also kind of comes out in your tool making as well. Like you like to just add like these little.
The details like grab my eyes a lot, and then like you get from the detail
So
to
that
the transition.
Makes sense when you're picking which go you like.
Yeah,
the most.
and the tool and fuller days just too many of them
Yeah.
for my fit head. It's just a lot going on.
Yeah.
So probably the draft because it is still big and more exaggerated everywhere, and so you can do it. And I just like I think I can see draft shapes pretty well. I've shod quite a few of them, so it's just like that. Saddle horse shapes like 3/4 fuller day and tool and fuller day, they're all different. There's so many different size and breeds of saddle horses.
Yeah.
Where draft horses, they're kind of just draft horses.
Yeah, they're
and so
big.
there'll be little discretions from a Percheron to a Clyde to a, even getting down to the light draft of a Frisian. But it's like, for the most part, especially their hind feet, which I'm on the hinds, pretty much the same.
Yeah.
And so you can really practice it and you can keep like fine-tuning it every single time. And it's easier to make it look exaggerated because it's so big.
Right.
So it's like, for me, I think draft day was probably be my favorite.
So when are they going to go to a Scotch bottom heel in the class?
Yeah, so they'd call it like a Scotch bottom or an ag
the ag
heel.
heel,
And
yep.
so what that is like you have essentially a cleat that gets folded up and is sticking out on each heel.
So why are they doing it where it's a plain stamp Masselot and not a heel on it right now?
I'm not sure.
I think perhaps ease for the competitors for the level of talent in each team.
That's probably right.
I think the
Trying to like draw more.
I think we're getting people to bring draft horses in that would need those types of shoeing is probably a little bit less. So it's easier to give them the flat shoeing.
Yep.
But I know that I'm under the understanding that next February, March, when they do the first 4-man for 2023 near Lexington, will be egg heels on the draft that day.
Which will be basically the concept of when they did the classic, right?
Correct. Yeah, and so
It will be the classic.
There's also going to be,
Oh, really?
instead of a 3/4 foldered Masselot day, we will have a roadster day like the classic. So we will have
Fronts will be bevels.
fronts will be a beveled horseshoe, and then the hinds will be a roadster, which with a outside
then-
calkin and inside wedge.
Yep. And then even on the tool and fuller day, the fronts will still be a hunter heel, but the hinds will have a wedge and a calkin on them.
Nice.
And so it is more each day. But right now, I do think you're spot on of the shoe list right now is very inviting for different skill sets. You could go all the, and it's easy to
like
be
if somebody's just getting into this 4-man
Just starting
concept.
out.
Yep.
man, you're just starting out competing and trying to figure it out. Like,
Yeah.
this is a pretty good contest to go to. I don't think it might be great if you're a novice, but if you're in the categories already as a WCB and you're trying to go up, like, the team event's a really good thing to do because you're not alone. You're getting to practice with your team members, and it's a pretty basic shoe list that you're not getting lost in the weeds of a lot of things. You're still really focusing on the basics of horseshoeing.
Caulks and wedges, they can be a little intimidating.
Yeah, there's not a lot of jewelry on the shoes that we're
Yeah.
making. We are doing very functional shoes that you can nail on every day.
which
But
is
we got
cool.
less time right now. The shoes are less. We got 30 minutes less each
Oh,
class.
so when
Besides the draft class. The draft class right now is 2.5 hours. But the
Okay.
other two are only 2 hours each.
Okay. So, Jesse, you haven't. You're pretty new to the 4-man concept, I guess, as well.
Yes.
Are you nervous for when they go to caulks and wedges?
No.
No? You ready
No. I got 3 other guys
to help you
to
out?
help me out.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me a bit.
They'll whip you into shape.
Yeah. Riley's a forging master. Brian's been competing and shoeing horses forever.
Longer than I've been alive.
Keep
That's
rubbing
crazy.
his face, Troy.
Yeah.
We're making the team.
Troy swings
Golly.
a sledgehammer like a maniac, so it's going into the block, and all the jewelry's getting put on it.
That's sweet.
I'm not gonna lie, and I'm more nervous. I'm more nervous because once you
carry
put
more responsibility.
once you put a heel on something, an upright heel, like once you throw a cleat,
Yeah.
you ain't rasping through the cleat. It's big. Like it's like right now we can rasp a heel off.
Yeah, you can
And we
take some length away if you need to.
Oh
Cut it
yeah.
off if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Once you commit to the heel,
You're
for
basically
a
having to
calkin,
start over if it's
Yeah.
too whack.
Yeah, dude. It's so like it's just you're so bound. Your
We're not doing
measurements.
that again.
Your measurements have to be. And like
We almost did it today. We're not
yeah.
doing it again.
And like, I'm already having to make 2 shoes a go because I make the wrong side almost every single time.
Well,
so
that's
it's
not
like we
good.
don't have very much time left.
No kidding. Well, Jesse, how long have you been shoeing horses like all together?
That's a tough question to answer. I started young, started trimming young. My grandpa was a farrier, and I was kind of back and forth.
What's considered young? Because, like, Troy's young,
No, 13.
13 young.
Yeah, young.
Hey.
Young. I mean, we were starting colts and trimming horses really young, and then it turned into a chore. So I tried to get away from it,
Yeah.
and
Because you're almost like being forced to do it at that time because like, you
Kinda.
didn't have an option or a choice.
kind of, and it turned out, the further I got away from it, I hated life more and more and more, and like horses and animals in general, but horses really grounded me, turned me into a pretty decent person.
Yeah.
And I, when I finally accepted that, quit trying to fight it and be who I thought I wanted to be and just be who I was, and got back into it. So this last stretch here, I moved about 10 years ago, made some serious changes, and this practice I've been at for 10 years. Before that, I was kind of just shoeing horses, but I was rodeoing, so it was more important to me to be on the road than being a farrier.
I lived that too.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So
What type of farrier was your grandpa per se?
he was...
Like he was just getting them stealing the feet?
No, at the time he was a pretty big deal in the county. He was in Clark County, Washington, Vancouver area. He was a pretty big deal, but that was back when if another horseshoer pulled into a barn, somebody would pack up and leave because you don't want to share any secrets. So he was, he was going to clinics and trying to start associations and trying to get everybody to band together. Yeah, he was serious. Cool. He was, good for as good as he could be for the time for what was available.
But did that turn into he was so serious about it that he pushed seriousness on you?
Absolutely. He showed me not only what kind of farrier, but he was the example of what kind of man I should be, and all aspects, not just farrier, but all aspects of life.
That's good.
Pretty big deal. And
it's probably good, but it's also like hard to you're like, man, I got to fill these boots.
Big boots.
Yeah, you're like trying to keep up.
But that's good. I mean, you don't get comfortable. Just keep driving.
That's probably why so that's probably, I wonder a little bit where you came from, you're comfortable in these stressful situations. Is that it was never easy riding with him either. He's things are serious and he's life's stressful. Get comfortable in it.
Yeah. Get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah, because that's obviously you like it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, and I always thought it was because of your rodeo background, you were able to handle high stress situations.
Before that, we were flipping colts in a couple of months. So, auction horses, putting 60, 90 days on an auction horse is a little bit more stressful than rodeo, because you know what you're getting into in rodeo, and you're riding a bull. It's going to buck. If you get off, it might come after you. Or
yeah, you do, but you don't.
Yeah, there's only one way to get off of a bull, so that's where you're getting off. Auction horses, you're just not sure what you're getting into, so there's a lot of questions, but you can learn so much about yourself from animals.
So these colts that you guys are picking up, when you did this, are these they're not broke at all, and you guys are trying to break them, or?
Man, you don't know. They're coming from an auction.
Yeah,
Nobody tells the truth. That's the number one. Don't believe anything that they tell you.
Yeah. I mean, I even hear that, amongst the clients I work for,
Yeah. Not just 10 years ago, I took on this mare. They're like, yeah, they showed her at the auction. They were roping off her. She was great. They had her for a couple of months, brought her to me for a tune-up, and in 2 weeks, I couldn't even pick up a rope off of a fence post off of her. So,
yeah.
I mean, you can gentle them into or dumb them into accepting it for a moment, but they're not broke to it.
Yeah. So you really don't know what you're getting yourself into.
You don't know. Yeah.
So then you're trying to, with these horses, you're trying to break them and then resell them and try to make a profit on them, or are you trying to keep them for yourself?
Yeah. The reselling them wasn't the original plan. So my grandpa had cancer. He passed away at 53. I was 13 years old. But so there was a short amount of time where we did a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
That was part of it.
Okay.
It was kind of him fulfill, he's like, this is the things I wanted to do.
Right.
We're going to start doing
You
them.
need to learn how to be a man. This is what we're going to do.
So he kind of put it on the express lane. And it was
Absolutely. So it was pretty tough. So that's why, after all that, I was like, horses are hard. I don't like doing this work. I don't want to come home and do chores at 10 o'clock at night. Whatever time you get home, you're going to take care of the animals. And that's the first thing you're doing in the morning, last thing you're doing at night. Try to get away from it. Couldn't, man. It sucked me back in, and I love it.
Well, obviously, though, too, is horses were a big part of you and your grandpa's relationship. Mm-hmm. And losing him was probably pretty fucking hard. Mm-hmm. And so then you were like, well, fuck horses. You know what I mean? It reminds you of them every single time.
Yeah.
It's I know I veer away from those things. You're like, well, that's what reminds me of them. So I'm just going to head the other direction.
Yeah.
But then you probably found, I'm not saying it's sure, but I wonder if you found later, that was also a little bit of the connection to him.
Find a little bit of peace in it.
And seek it out again, probably.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so now is what did you do to get away from them? And was it?
Oh, I did everything, and I started a construction business. I went to
Okay.
construction. I started a construction business for a while. Hated that. That was terrible. I hate working with other people.
Welcome to the club.
Right. I mean, we're all a little weird.
That's my role here.
Every horseshoer you talk to are a little weird. We're very individual. Some of us get along together. Some of us don't get along together. But I expect a lot out of everybody. I'm really hard on myself, so I'm really hard on everybody else. And it wasn't fair to everybody else. I can do that with myself all day long. You know, ask my kids. They'll tell you the same thing. They all know horses well, and they're all very talented, but maybe one or two of them will stick into it.
Really?
It's yeah.
I wonder though. It'd be interesting. Like always, it's like it'd be interesting if your grandpa thought the same thing about you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And then all of a sudden, like, here you are.
Absolutely.
You stuck with, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, do you think he would have thought you would have stuck with it or
I
not?
don't know. I'm fairly certain he didn't think so.
Wow.
And so I wonder if your kids will end up at the same.
It could be. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, of like then you come back around. They came back around. Like, man, I thought that was a thing that I didn't like, but it turns out it's not.
Yeah.
Like it's in a different place.
Yeah. Yeah. So I started a few different times. I was half-assed horseshoer a few different times in my life because the most important thing to me was doing something else that I was doing at that time of my life. And then, here I am, just all in.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. What about you, Brian? How long have you been shoeing for?
I don't know the numbers exactly.
Well, it's been longer than Troy's been alive. We've heard
You don't
that.
know them or you don't want to say them?
I'm not good with numbers. All right? Like, I mean, I write numbers down a lot of time. I just can't add them together.
I see problems on the board. I just have to solve them.
Yeah, it's tough.
Superman.
My freshman year after college, I went out to Wyoming. My grandfather lived out in Sheridan, and I got a job on a dude ranch. And that summer, I learned about pulling shoes, trimming feet. And by the end of the summer, I shot my first horse. That was 1995.
Wow.
When I graduated college, I went to Oregon State University. I graduated college in 98, and that summer, I found a shoeing school that had a summer program. I wasn't interested in being a professional farrier.
You were or were not?
Was not.
Yeah.
I was.
What did you study in college?
Sports medicine. I was a board-certified athletic trainer
Wow.
for a short time. I essentially, I didn't know what I was doing with the ranch horses.
Yeah.
And I had my own horse that I was team roping on, and I was still paying someone to go and shoot them because I didn't have my own anvil and that kind of stuff. And I just wanted to know more about it. So I was like, I found a school that fit in between when I got out of undergraduate and before graduate school started. And I was like, okay, we'll go do this. And about 2 weeks into it, I got on the payphone. This is before cell phones. And I called my parents on the phone, talked to my mom. I said, I'm not going to go to grad school. I'm going to become a horseshoer.
Wow.
So
How did they take
and
you?
that was 98. So my mom has always been super supportive. I did college rodeo a little bit. She would travel around and come watch. My dad never came and watched me do anything like that.
So you guys didn't grow up with horses?
We grew up in a rural area. We had neighbors with horses. Occasionally, someone would go on vacation, and I'd be tasked with taking care of horses.
Go feed Fluffy.
I went to there's a horse camp for kids over in Clam called the Flying Horseshoe Ranch. I went there for a number of summers.
Yeah.
So I was around them, but we didn't own them.
Yeah.
When did you start? Like, you didn't all of a sudden just go to college rodeo for the first time, though?
No, it was my senior year, and there and where I went, kind of live in a weird area, or I grew up in a weird area. I went to Auburn schools. I had a Kent address, and the closest town was Black Diamond. And Black Diamond is just across the valley from Enumclaw, which was kind of known for a more agricultural area. There was, a lot of kids at high school rodeoed out of Enumclaw. And so there were some people that went to my high school that spent time in Enumclaw, and they were riding bulls.
Yeah.
This is, like I said, in the early 90s. And it intrigued me. And I definitely had a romanticism with things Western and cowboy and stuff, and I just kind of got gravitated to it, and I wanted to prove myself as being.
Did you say
like those people.
romanticism?
Yeah.
Romanticized.
Yeah, romanticized it.
Yeah, I haven't heard that before.
Really? It's like seeing the good in it only. You're like, this is like.
You're just looking at all the roses and the flowers and So it was just something I was drawn to.
Yeah.
So a couple weeks into horseshoeing school, and I said, I'm not going to go on to where I was doing, which was, helping medical stuff for people, and I wanted to get into horses.
You've told me that story a couple of times. I think it's pretty funny of when you were like, of why you didn't want to go back to doing the sports training deal.
Yeah, it was tough, so back this is what I said, early '90s. So the PBR is not a thing yet. You got the bull riders only, and I'm going to college rodeos, traveling around, and people, these guys are getting hurt riding bulls or whatever, and they're having these, kind of justice horse medicine or EMTs. They're, taking dislocations and resetting them. They're taping up broken bones, and the guys are climbing back on re-rides, doing this kind of stuff. And I go back to school, and I've got a college athlete who's getting $50,000 in scholarship money every year to go play football, and he can't go practice because his toenail hurts.
Yeah.
And that was a big problem, and there was also a big problem with the fact that you're sitting around and waiting for someone to come in to do treatment on. They just had ankle surgery, and you've created a rehab program for them. They're supposed to show up after class at this time. You're sitting there looking at the clock, and it should have been 30 minutes ago, and you're folding towels because you got nothing else to do. So that was kind of tough for me. I don't like kind of sitting still very much, and then honestly, the money was a factor. Like,
really,
most athletic trainers with a bachelor's degree are at that time, was worse than the pay was almost worse than a teacher, and you can only be expected to get a job at a high school level. If you wanted to work at a Division I or Division II university, and not even like a professional sports thing, you needed to be have a master's degree at the minimum. And so that's more school, that's more money. And I was just kind of fed up with dealing with human athletes, and I was really into horses. And I just wanted to do something with horses. And so I actually looked at ways, prior to thinking that horseshoeing was an actual avenue. There was a guy, I think his name was Tom Ivers, out of Portland area, that did a lot of sports medicine stuff with racehorses.
Oh, okay.
And I talked to him via really crude email at the time, and he had a book or two out. But that was all kind of voodoo witchcraft stuff. He wasn't a veterinarian. It was just kind of back off the track, doing stuff to get horses back on the track. Back on the track. My grades for undergraduate classes, as far as like chemistry, organic chem, that kind of stuff, were really bad. So there's no way I was going to get into like a vet school or a med school based on my academic.
Yeah.
And then being male and then being white.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just, at that time, it might be different now. They probably want some male vets or male veterinarians.
Yeah,
but,
maybe.
at that time, it just wasn't a thing. So I was just trying to find a way that when I got out of school, that I could actually go make some money and not be a burden to myself or somebody else. So,
just trying to tread water.
So my exposure to horseshoeing was the ranch I worked at was at, like I said, around the Sheridan area. There was a little over 100 head of horses there, and they all had to get shot a couple times a year. And it was, it was, I'm gonna say it was crude, but it's not to the level of what we see now.
Yeah.
Especially on the 4-man team. And when I got to the shoeing school, especially when we spent time after class, and one of the instructors, I went to Oklahoma State Horseshoeing School. One of the instructors, Dave Goodman, was there, and he was the one. And he doesn't know this, but spending just a few hours with him in the truck, going around after class to some of his clients, really opened my eyes as to how big of a world is out there for horseshoe. And that was for me personally, was the catalyst, because he was going out. I remember one time going out, and it was like a veterinarian's private place, and he was going to do some work on some kind of lameness. And I remember it was the first time I really paid attention to the fencing down in the Oklahoma area. They use a lot of metal, where back home it was always wood. And that particular fencing, they didn't bother to take away the drill bit parts or whatever of the sucker rod. So you have this big long thing, like 3/4 round. All of a sudden, there's this like drill bit attached. I just thought that was a bit dangerous for horses. But so just some of the stuff that he was doing, and it just blew my mind.
Yeah.
And so it was something I just dove head first into. And so there was a veterinarian that worked on the horses, and one of my neighbors, that these gals babysat me. They showed Arab horses and stuff, and I said, hey, give me the name of your veterinarian and stuff. I called him up and I said, give me a name of a couple guys to come work with after
That's
I got out of
smart.
school. And so I called them up and I essentially started an informal apprenticeship. It was essentially I was riding along as often as I could.
Yeah.
And to their benefit, that was Roberto Rivera and Pablo Rivera. They shod on their racetrack at Emerald Downs in my hometown of Auburn, Washington, at the time. And it really is anything that I learned under their tutelage that you could dismiss as good just everyday shoeing. And the benefit there at the racetrack at that time was I got to see a lot of horses, and I got to see young horses running at full speed, and you can see some catastrophic stuff happen, not only unfortunately to the animals, but you see the stress placed on a young hoof capsule.
Yeah, it's to the extremes.
Yeah, exactly. And so
pressure
there's just a
test.
lot of knowledge and stuff to be going on there. The downside of that is that most plating work around racetracks is done cold, and just kind of a little tangent is about 2 weeks after I got out of horseshoe school, I was home, and I heard that there was a conference going on. It was for the Ferry Association of Washington State. It was over at Thorpe at Silver Shoe Supply. I showed up there. I didn't know anybody. No one talked to me. I kind of was on the outskirts. And one of the days they had a horseshoeing contest, and I walked around. These good people swinging hammers like you've never seen before, doing stuff. And I was like, "What the heck did I just see?" And I was like, well, "I'm going to be here next year, and I'm going to do this." And so I did.
I think it does that. It either like you want in or you want as far away from that damn thing as possible.
And I wanted in because I saw that. I said, well, that is obviously a whole nother level than what I've already been exposed to.
Yeah.
So I did whatever I could to make myself not embarrass myself too much, and came back the next year. And
Do you remember what the shoes were on that list when you had to make?
I have absolutely no idea what the shoe was. I know who the clinician was.
Yeah, I just don't.
It was Kevin Haley. He was on the American Farriers team in the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
And one thing that was a little different is most local association contests and stuff, they usually do a clinic before, and then you have your contest and then awards.
Yeah.
And we had if I remember, we had the contest first, and then the last day, like Sunday, was a clinic day. And
It's different.
and Kevin was such a good clinician for me in that he remembered all the I'm a year out of horseshoeing school, and none of the actual hands-on stuff comes easy to me. I was, as far as horseshoeing goes, like I can read a horseshoeing textbook and I can pass a test, but you tell me to pull the clip or something, I'm gonna look pretty ridiculous. And he really walked me through on that clinic day aspect, the things that he saw during my shoeing go.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a few months later that I
Had you
passed.
ever had anybody do that with you to that point?
No, I mean, for outside of school, like so when I was at the Dude Ranch, I would do something like, and they would go, okay, do this or that, and I would do that, and then I was never on my own to like, I didn't know what the picture was. I would just say I would go until they said stop, and I said or go until they said I was good enough.
Yeah.
And that was it. And that's why I wanted to go to the shoeing school because I didn't know where that good enough or where that was.
Yeah.
And then when I was kind of doing that in a formal apprenticeship, a lot of times you're holding horses or you're clinching feet or pulling shoes, but it's just small parts of it. So when you have someone come in and kind of critique your whole procedure from the start, from pulling the shoe, trimming the foot, shaping the shoe, to fitting, to nailing, to clinching, there's a lot of things that goes on in that aspect of it, of shoeing a horse.
Yeah.
And have someone come in and say, hey, well, I remember this, I remember that, and hey, you can do this and you can do that. And if it wasn't for that, and it was a very positive experience to me. I felt maybe today wasn't a good example, but I felt that I've been coachable. I felt receptive to someone else's opinion of what I could need to do.
Yeah.
Coachable, but it sounds like this is like you just said that you do it in school where you would just start doing things till they said stop.
Well,
and it's like sometimes like today that might have been what maybe happened a little, like where you're like, there's so many ideas coming at me. I don't think I'm not sure where I'm going anymore. I'm just going to start doing a little bit of each till they say,
That is what happened today. Yeah, it was just a blow up today.
But it's funny how like we either resort to one or the other you know what I mean? Like I do the same thing. It's like I resort mostly to like, well, I'll just go through the process, like somewhat muscle memory, and I'm not even paying attention to what's really happening in my project anymore. I just like quarter bend, now, you know, as you get to the end, you're like, well, this is a pile of crap. I wasn't
Somebody
thinking.
comes along and tells you how to fit.
Yeah, you're like, well, I guess I'll just start riding this wave until something bucks me off of it. It's just like how it kind of goes. Like,
Yeah, it was a little bit of that today for sure.
but it's interesting. Like, but it's funny of like when you went to the shoeing school and it was happening, you were definitely on like you probably didn't know what it was supposed to look like. But now, I mean, you've got to practice for quite a while. You know what you want.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like
Well, and part of what I did today was where I'm at currently, shoeing my everyday horses, what I was trying to achieve, and it wasn't in the best interest of the team.
Did you? No, but it's like, but like what you're saying. So it's like you kind of rode down the middle a little bit then today of like half muscle memory, half.
My whole life is down the middle.
Just trying to be Switzerland.
I remember back in an election, they were calling somebody. He was on the fence. He thought this way, he thought that. I mean, I was like, "What's wrong with that? That is my life."
That's
like,
the
if
guy.
If there's a biography, there's a guy on a fence, and he doesn't know what side he's on.
So it's like, has that been a little bit for you of like even through horseshoeing of you're like, do
Well,
I?
it's 100% through horseshoeing.
Because you've done other things besides horseshoeing too.
It's been amplified in horseshoeing. I don't think in no other aspect of my life has it been more amplified or magnified than horseshoeing.
And do you think that's because horseshoing's so objective?
100%.
Where like, so you did a time in your life microscope work,
I've done some.
not objective, right? Like
Right.
probably pretty. This is the process.
But
These are the tolerances.
The interesting correlation of what we do is that the user that use that in most places, especially as modern era of what microscopy is that
That's a big word for microscopes, huh?
that the user has no clue anything what they're doing.
How
All
it
they want to
works.
do is get to focus, going to take a picture, and can they add it to whatever they're doing for their research. So it's not unlike what we do here, where the end user, being the horse owner, has no clue to the nuances of what you're doing. They just care that the light turns on when they turn the button, or does that horse trip when he's out doing whatever they're asking him to do, and so there's so much. And I'm sure in a lot of trades that just goes unappreciated to the details to making things seem like they are flawless.
Was that job easier though, just because like there was no way, there's no.
For like 80% of the work, it was easier because you were essentially doing routine maintenance where you're just doing like for automotive work, you do lube, oil, and filter. You were lubricating areas that would see wear. You were cleaning areas that got dirty. Is those instances where there was a mechanical breakdown and the mechanisms that moved different parts of it that actually need to be rebuilt. And I was just fortunate that my dad is a savant for that kind of work.
I hear that word all the time. What the hell does it mean?
Yeah, savant. Is that
Like
what you
just
said?
good at it?
Like
Like Troy at fucking showing horses?
like just kind of like almost autistically good at it. Like just,
Okay.
like there
Very detailed.
There was never a time that you could present a problem and they didn't know how to fix it and to do it.
And it's probably like, okay, that makes sense. If like they don't even have to know the problem or seen it before, but they understand how it works
And
so
so-
much
and
that
so
they can
quickly.
see
So
it.
It's
like
because
like
they've
a
seen it before, though. Like I've already made that mistake.
Or close to it.
Don't do that.
well, it's just
Yeah.
it's just like a master at any kind of thing. And I've read a lot of self-help books to keep myself off the ledge. And one of the things they said about when it comes to like mastery, so there's the idea that 10,000 hours of repeated, really focused makes someone a master. But the other thing is when they've done studies to look at people's brain cognition as far as solving problems. One of the studies was master chess players, and they could show photos of like an aerial view of a chessboard, and just by the way the pieces were, those players really quickly knew what the best moves were and the percentages for that. And just like a guy who maybe is leading the league in home runs for them, for baseball or whatever, the second that ball it's going 90 miles an hour, the second that it's left that pitcher's hand, from where his hand is and stuff, he kind of knows if it's going to be a fastball, a slider, breaking ball, whatever. Like they have the pattern recognition. And so I had the opportunity to spend 2 AFA conventions with Tom Peterson in the draft class.
Yeah.
And so his pattern recognition of knowing what was wrong with his shape was so fast, and he knew exactly the move he needed to do to correct it. Where I was spending countless seconds of precious heat trying to look at my project, figuring out what was wrong, and then just from lack of experience and recognition, trying to figure out what I need to do to correct this thing that took me too long to figure out what I was wrong with.
So hard.
And that's why you see, at least in my opinion, and why you see these guys who are at the top of their game and national champions and the like, is that they can look at, like, we're all making mistakes, because there's so many variables and the heat and this kind of stuff, but they can look at it and they know exactly what's wrong almost instantly, and they know exactly the correct way to fix it. And so that's why it looks like they're working with so much more heat, because they're not wasting it.
Right.
Yep.
Like it just goes, and that's, I mean, I would love to be there someday. My arms might fall off before I get there.
How was that being able to be paired up with Tom in the draft show or the draft classic convention?
It's funny. I was terribly nervous. I've had a couple times where I've been paired
I
with
would have been
guys
too.
who were kind of the Hall of Fame level of competitor.
Yeah, Tom is arguably, not
of-
even arguably, Tom's one of the best horseshoers in America. And not even just America,
The world, really.
in the world. He can usually go anywhere and
He's a
kind
bad-
of
he's a
lay
bad
down
daddy.
some
He's an
awesome work.
American national champion. He is reserve national champion for Europe, and he's national champion for Australia.
Yeah,
And those are the
Pretty
three
freaking
main
sweet.
big areas you're going to
Yep.
see
Yeah.
horseshoeing contests.
he's a bad dude.
Yeah. And
So was the biggest thing you were worried, like, just don't screw up?
well, it's just so, like, if I'm at a contest, I'm not getting 40 people around me to watch. And you get something like Tom, everyone wants to see what Tom's
Yeah.
doing. And so I'm there, and just the nerves and the amp, and you want to do good.
Yeah.
Because Tom's not there to get third or sixth or eighth like he does what we do.
He wants to win.
He wants to get first place.
Yeah.
And so it puts stress, and so you get, and so like I broke a fuller for him at a go. I mean, and also, just because you're kind of amped up, you're on the muscle, and
And then you got ADI sitting there watching you too. Like,
yeah, it's tough.
And it's a weird team aspect because your guys' points aren't together.
yeah, and
It's, I mean, you can get scored as a total, but it's like each person's getting their pairs scored by themselves.
The pair of front shoes that one of the members is making is scored, and the other pair of shoes is being scored, and then that's averaged out, and that's where you're placed as a team.
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm pretty sure, and it's happened I know for sure, like in Utah, because it was not a whole lot of shoes on the table. You know where everybody was, because at the convention, everything's blind.
Yeah.
But, like, Tom's are up first, and then Brian's are fourth or fifth, like at a Utah contest. And so hopefully that is better than the guy that's at second, and
Yeah, but if you got a guy that's second and third,
well, then
they're whipping.
We're toast.
yeah.
So, it's a different thing. I really enjoyed last year. Jesse and I did the team, and I feel that Jesse and I are closer in skill level than Tom and I were. And
Oh, you and Jesse did the draft class at convention. you
correct,
said?
yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
just personally, emotionally, like, I didn't have the nerves that I had
Working with Tom.
working with somebody else that was
Yeah.
just, not perceived, but they just are that much better than you. So, the lull.
The lull.
Conversation. So, yeah, I don't know how we got the tangent on convention draft horseshoeing.
Well, you guys shot a draft horse today, so who knows? Well, man, it's been fun.
Yeah. No,
Very fun.
I think this is a good little view into, I guess we didn't see Troy.
Yeah, I
How
was
long
gonna say.
Troy's been shoeing horses?
We said 3 years.
Well, he's been shoeing horses for 3 years. It's like, what, yeah, you're going to make you talk. What drug you into shoeing horses? Like, did you grow up with horses?
I thought I paid my farrier too much growing up.
Really?
$80 for a full set.
You're like, screw this.
Yeah.
So how many horses did you have, or do you have?
I have none now, but
Yeah.
I had 4 at the time.
Probably
So-
good.
And
We're
how much
rolling.
do you charge to shoe a horse?
$175
Yeah.
right now.
Hot
so.
diggity dog.
Over double.
So you thought that you were paying this guy too much, that it was gonna be cheaper to go to school because you went to school, or did you just first start riding with the guy?
I started an apprenticeship,
And you were gonna do that to learn how to just shoe your own horses.
yeah. Before I started the apprenticeship, I knew I was going to give it my best shot. And
Yeah.
like,
You're like, I'm just gonna be all into this either way
yeah.
and see where it goes. Like, so you started your apprenticeship, and obviously you liked it a little bit.
Yep.
Who is the apprenticeship with?
Steve Ritchie,
Steve
one
Ritchie?
of Brian's good buddies that he
Okay.
used to compete with back in the day all the
He's
time.
another old timer.
Yeah.
He's older than I am.
Oh man.
Yeah, and Steve apprenticed with a guy named Russell Colvin. And Russell Colvin is the man that we could probably all thank, like we owe him all a little bit of our life. He made Iron Mountain Flux,
Oh, yeah.
which pretty
I
much
see.
all of us, if you aren't
Use.
using Iron Mountain Flux at Forge Weld,
You're probably not getting any welds.
no, you're having a rough
You're
day.
probably not sticking any welds.
You're probably going to a lot of clinics to learn how to weld.
Yeah.
You just bought yourself a bottle of Iron Mountain and taken care of
He,
it.
he did a lot of hard work for us to figure it out, and it's like, man, don't knock on a good thing, just ride it out. So it's like it is pretty funny how that world works out. Of like Russell, Steve went to Russell, and now here you are, and it's like. But why did you go to school? Did Russell just kind of encourage you? I mean, not Russell, Steve encouraged you to go to school.
Yep. Steve encouraged me to go to school from day one. And
So he had a timeline probably on you of like did he, or like, hey, you got to be out of here by this and go to school.
No, I always had an open invite going with Steve.
Where did you go to school? Or did-
Heartland for
Oh, you
it was
did?
like 2 weeks I was there. It was like right at the start of COVID.
and then how long did you
I
go
was still,
there, Riley?
My class is only, I think, 8 weeks.
And you only went for 2 weeks.
I was supposed to go for the 8-week class,
Oh.
but it was right at the start of COVID, and I was
Yeah.
still 17. And my dad wanted me to come home,
Oh.
so I wanted to stay, but I didn't want to disobey my dad. So it was
Yeah.
like, okay, I'll go home. Then I resumed the apprenticeship, and I had already been like aware of the WCB and things like that. So I
Yeah.
watched the Facebook lives, and I was forging every day at that point, and
Yeah.
bringing my shoes that I had made the night before to Steve the next day, and he would pick them apart and tell
Okay.
me what I needed to fix. So
Wow. So do you ever see yourself going back to Heartland to finish that 6 weeks?
probably not.
You might go there to instruct.
After you got on the team, head on back. But it is like did
An
you?
honorary degree.
Yeah.
You're gonna need a commencement speech at Heartland this summer.
Yeah, that's cool.
But you didn't. You came so your dad has his own business.
Yeah, he's a machinist and a fabricator.
So you've already grown up seeing that you could run your own gig.
For sure, from day one. I worked in the shop like every day. My dad was down there in the summertime since I was like 9.
So you kind of learned a work ethic probably from your dad.
For sure. Yeah.
And did you But did you kind of always know you weren't going to just go work for somebody else?
Yeah, that was never even crossed my mind to be an employee.
You were just going to start your own business
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is a big. Most horseshoers I think you talk to are kind of on that route of like they're like, man, I just never saw myself almost anywhere else, and then here I am.
Yeah. Shoeing. Full time. Sweet.
Got a lot of life ahead of you.
Hopefully.
What about you, Riley?
Man,
What got you into shoeing horses?
we covered it a little bit before on the last one too, but it
Yep.
was man, almost the same thing as Troy a little bit. Not, I guess, the same thing as Troy. I tried to be an employee for a little bit. I started my working life. I started a little early. I got kicked out of high school, so my mom wasn't really about us just sitting about, and so I got pushed into like, well, you're going to go somewhere and work, and so I got a job in a welding shop. I was just in a fab shop grinding and welding, so I kind of thought that's where I was going to leave. Is that I then got a job after that welding, that fab shop, and I got a job at a steel mill, and I was an assistant millwright there. And I thought, well, these millwrights are making more money than welders, so I'm going to go ahead and be a millwright. Well, then I realized I'm not a good employee, and I'm not a good coworker. And especially at that time, I was an even angrier young guy. And so I tried fighting my boss, lost my job.
Tried fighting your boss.
Oh man, shove them up against the rack.
It's a good way to keep a job.
And you kind of know it right away. You're like, well, I just pushed my boss. I better grab my stuff. It's probably going to go good.
Boss, can I still get my check?
Yeah. It's funny. I still buy steel at that place.
Really?
The owner of the place loves me.
Yeah.
And the guy that I push still works there. We don't talk much when I go in.
Yeah,
It's pretty clear. But I realized I just wasn't a good employee, and I kind of had to figure something out, and was already team roping and everything else. So it's like, man, I better head to horseshoeing school, at least then I can work by myself. And I was kind of almost the same boat as you, as I was realizing how much better I was with animals than I was with people. And I was like, well, this way I can kind of just, horse trainers make nothing, but the farrier's driving a brand new pickup. Well, I didn't grow up with a lot of money, so I was like, that new pickup sounds pretty damn nice.
Yeah.
I'm going to head that way.
Yeah, I like that. Like being able to have a nice rig.
Yeah. It's, not even just a nice rig. It's like, man, I think, like, there's horseshoers pride themselves that we supply our families.
Yeah.
And we are, like, hard workers. And, like, even if our family, like, we have money that's coming from other things, like, we do our part. And it's like it's a very satisfying job for the most part. We got downtimes, but it's like for the most part, you feel pretty okay for yourself,
It's rewarding.
It's like mowing a lawn. The lawn keeps growing, it gets long, looks like crap.
If only it was acceptable to drink beer as much shoeing horses as mowing the lawn.
I would never get anything done if I drank beer and shot horses.
No, me neither.
There's no way. Can't do it.
Man, no, I think this was a great deal to have everybody kind of get a little insight on what makes up a horseshoeing team, what makes up, us as individuals a little bit.
Yep.
And you get a view of how different we each are and where we came from in life. But here we are all mashed up in the middle and
trying to accomplish
one goal. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, who knows what we'll do on the next one. Try and line up another guest or couple guests, I guess, for the next pod.
See where it goes. If you have any suggestions, people you want to see, comments or dilemmas or anything that's like, man, you just got a gripe that you want to get out. And it's like, well, Peter Griffin says, what really grinds your gears?
What's grinding my gears?
Let us know, and we'll try to
if you guys do like listener questions or whatever, you can send them to an email at forgeandbrains@gmail.com, and then we'll
or our Instagram.
Yeah, or our Instagram.
Same handle.
At Forge and Brains Podcast.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Cool. Thank you.